How's it going, guys? So, Varus was revealed yesterday, and 7 new variety cards were just revealed today. Now, instead of doing a blind reaction to the cards, I decided to try to put together some decks with the new cards. I guess we'll start with Varus himself, since he levels up by targeting units. Pantheon and Akshan are 2 obvious choices, but I wanted to do something a bit different. I recently did a video with a Kayn Jax deck, which I found to be surprisingly good, so I thought about doing something similar. Since Varus has a different level up requirement, this might be a bit trickier to pull off, but one thing you can do to speed things up is cycle weapons to advance his level up. By cycling weapons, I mean you can equip a unit that already has equipment, and then take the equipment that goes back into your hand to play on another unit, or even the same unit. You might have seen some Akshan decks doing this recently. Another thing about cycling weapons is that if you have Varus on board, you're also powering up his bow when you do it. For targeting units, there are several new cards like Lunari Cultist that creates 2 gems, and Momentous Choice, which counts twice if you've equipped. Jax also has several good spells that target allies. The Ambitious Cultist and Lunari Cultist gave me an idea to combine Varus with Victor. If you use the gems on an augment unit, they're actually granting +2 attack since they're created. The same goes for Vault Breaker, which gives 3 attack for the copies. Iterative Improvement also helps level up Victor and also Varus if you use it on your own unit. Also, if Station Archivist draws a Death Ray or Thermo Beam and there are no enemies on board, you can target your own unit. It works better with Fated, but there might be niche situations for this. Another idea I had for Varus is combining with Nami, since we have spells like Momentous Choice that cast twice, so it counts for 2 spells with Nami and Shelly. It also has some protection cards like the Sudden Surge and the Expanse Protection, as well as removal tools like Frostbite and Strike spells. Along with the protection spell, we have Lunari Cultist, Shakedown, Bone Skewer, Pocket Aces, and Fortune Croaker to help level up Varus. I also did a deck with Powder Pandemonium and the new equipment cards, which was pretty fun to play. So I decided to do a variation of that with the newly released cards. Unless it's been fixed in the recent patch, there's a glitch with Powder Pandemonium where Jagged Cutlass doesn't count towards its plunder procs. So I cut a few copies and added the new equipment card that allows you to draw more. Since the Darkin Harpoon and Unending Wave draw fleeting cards, I tried to keep the deck pretty low to the ground, but I did add a copy of Portapalooza, just because we don't have very many cards that create portals. We do at least have a lot of ways to level up Nora, since cards like Mirai Warden, Double Trouble, Line 'em Up, and Powder Pandemonium all create units. Since some of the created units and champions are 1-drops, the Jagged Taskmaster synergizes well. With Taskmaster and the equipment cards, a leveled Fizz could easily have 6 attack or 5 attack Scout. With the new Fracture card, I thought it would fit perfectly with the Skygrounds deck I made with Swain and Vladimir. I only have 1 copy of Fracture since there are already other spells that do similar things. I had to cut a copy of Vulpine Wanderer to add Fracture, so if I were to cut any other cards, I'd probably prefer a 3rd copy of Vulpine instead of 2 Fractures, since Ramstance does a similar thing. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this deck, but I do want to show some clips of Bloodseeker Basilisk and explain why it's so important for this deck. If you use it on Crimson Curator, it generates a ton of cards. If you use it on Bone Scryer or Crimson Disciple, which can be generated from Crimson Curator, Swain will stun multiple units. And if you use it on Vrina, she has 19 attack if you have Skyrounds on board. A deck with Twillet Protector I thought of is Diana and Leona, but also with Bard. Most of these decks I haven't tested this out, so I don't know how well it works, but it seems interesting. Since several buffs are temporary, I thought Out of the Way would be a fun trick, since it also draws you a card it's not entirely a 5 mana do nothing. I also had another deck idea for Nami, but this time with Ash. It uses a new Frostbite spell, which counts as 2 casts if you've equipped an ally, so it has some synergy with Nami and Shelly. I cut some of the more expensive cards like Winter's Breath since we're using cards that have you draw fleeting cards. I also have a Nami Nar Twisted Fate deck I'm working on that will benefit from the new cards, the draw cards. Hopefully I'll upload a video on that within the first few weeks of the expansion. And lastly, with this new Parts-a-Palooza landmark, I made this Rumble Draven deck. I originally had 2 copies of Nora and the 2 mana unit that creates a portal, but I decided to cut those to focus on more on other synergies. This deck is a bit on the aggro side and doesn't even have copies of Lost Soul, but it does have several removal tools and combat tricks. One combo you can do is a burst discard spell like Scrap Heap, Spinning Axe, or Yordle Portal on survival skills. This will give Draven or Rumble the ability to block any attack without dying, and you can also combine it with Whirling Death. These are easy ways to level both Draven and Rumble. It's also a huge blowout. There was a competitive player who was running 3 copies of survival skills, and Whirling Death was his Draven deck. He said that he'd use that combo on ladder, and his opponents would usually just surrender after that. One deck I was thinking about using Ezreal with this Violent Discord card, but someone said there was another champion being released for Piltover and Zon, which might have synergies with them, so I might wait for that. The Ambitious Cultist might also fit in that deck since Piltover and Zon has access to the Gata list. So that's it for now. Let me know if you want to see more of these types of videos, or if you just prefer gameplay content, and please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, guys.